It's a reasonable question. It is a reasonable question because Mike Bianco's tried just about everything else. Before we go down the road of Ole Miss and Mississippi State, because that's not an entirely fun topic, let's talk about the best team in the state of Mississippi, the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles, who are up to 11 in the Division I baseball top 25. Is that right, or is that RPI? Where are they? Is that right?
They're actually, it's kind of funny. We have them 11 in our top 25 rankings, but they're also 11 in the RPI right now.
How good is this team? We were talking a lot about this yesterday, and my summation for them right now is they feel complete.
They are really complete. I mean, I was just writing about it in my column that I just posted, but this, to me, it sounds crazy, but like this is a national championship caliber club potentially. I think when you look at this team from a pitching standpoint, you look at Hunter Riggins, Tanner Hall, Hurston Waldrop on the back end. They've got some really nice pieces in the bullpen. This isn't just a team with 3 weekend starters. And, oh, by the way, after those guys, it's like a total massive step down. They've got some really good options in the bullpen. And then you combine that with the offense with, by the way, an older offense, which we all know is very critical in college baseball, with the Danny Lynches of the world, with guys like Sade Wilkes who are just starting to kind of mature before our eyes, and Christopher Sargent, Will McGillis. This is an older lineup. This is a pitching staff with a lot of talent. They're an Omaha caliber club, and I'm not so sure they're not just a little bit more than just an Omaha caliber club. I think they're a team that can get to Omaha and make some noise.
When we look at the next batch of regional projections, they're a host, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, easily. I mean, right now, I had an updated top 8 in my latest column just now, and Southern Miss is like my second or third team away from being a protected top 8. So I mean, they're right there on the cusp of being in the top 8 range. The only thing I kind of wonder about, Richard, is I just think their margin for error in that league is going to be very small in terms of like trying to get that top 8, because Conference USA right now is sitting at 9 in the RPI. Last year, if you remember, 4-bid league, the league was riding high. Right now, they've got 4 or 5 teams in that league with like RPIs in the 180 to 250 range, and so the weight of that RPI in that conference has kind of brought that down to number 9. And they're just gonna be one of those teams throughout the year, like you almost can't afford to like have a slip up at home to one of the teams like Rice, who has an RPI in like the 200s, because what happens is at the end of the year, because we all know no matter what the committee says, they always go by the RPI. So you lose like one game to Rice, and all of a sudden that RPI can dip down to the 20s. You lose one more to another team, and all of a sudden it's in the bottom 20s or in the 30s. So margin for error very small, but right now they're looking really good.
And the really cool thing about their resume is when they've had opportunities for RPI boosting games, they've taken advantage. They got a win over Tulane in the midweek, and I know Tulane has struggled a little bit. They've beaten Ole Miss. They've beaten Mississippi State. They've beaten Alabama. They won a series on the road against Lafayette. They won the series at home against FAU. Pretty good series sweep to go to Charlotte and do it on the road. They've taken advantage of the opportunities when they presented themselves.
Yeah, I mean, like the toughest part of their schedule's over. I mean, they play Louisiana Tech, so like that's over with. We know that's a rivalry series. So, I mean, Scott Berry probably driving crazy if you heard me say it, but like the toughest part of their season until the postseason is over. And so now it's all about just maintaining that level of consistency and just not having too many slip-ups the rest of the way. If they do that, they're easily a top 16. They're probably a top 8.
It's going to be interesting to see. No, they would love a redo for that Dallas Baptist weekend. I mean, even if they only got one and just didn't get swept.
Yeah. It was just a weird weekend. I mean, if you remember here in the state of Texas, it was like 35 to 38 all weekend long. It was just one of those weird deals. But like Dallas Baptist is a really good team too. I mean, they're not as good as RPI. They're like number 3 in the RPI, but they're a pretty high quality club. Like they'll be a team that's in the top 16 mix as well.
All right, let's move north in the state of Mississippi. Not great times in Starkville, not great times in Oxford. You got Ole Miss and Mississippi State both sitting at 4-8 in league play. Let's start here. Which of these two teams is more likely to rally and get in that 14 to 16 win range in league play, or can either get even remotely close to that number?
Oh, boy. I would probably lean Ole Miss. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was looking last night, and I was kind of putting together series wins for both teams. So I'll look at Ole Miss like this. I think they'll find a way to win the South Carolina series. Okay. Don't give me hate mail, please. But I think they win the Mississippi State series at home. And then they go to Arkansas. They'll lose that. They get Missouri at home. Then they get A&M at home. So that's a doable schedule to win 4 remaining series. Now, I'm not saying I believe in this team to do that just yet, but the schedule presents itself to have a pretty strong finish, I feel like. Whereas if I look at Mississippi State, I'm looking at the remaining of their schedule, and I had them at 12-18 when I did it last night. I had them at 12-18, and I think you look at the Auburn series. I look at Auburn as a series. I actually have them down as a series win. I think it was 12-18 with a series win over Auburn, an upset series win. They get Ole Miss on the road, which I have them losing. I think they win the series at Missouri. But then I think they lose their three remaining series. I think they lose to Florida. I think they lose a series at A&M. A&M starting to play a little bit better now. And then they have Tennessee the final week. And I hope for their sake that's not to get in the SEC tournament that final weekend against Tennessee.
If Mississippi State goes 12-18, is there anything they can do in Hoover to play their way into the tournament outside of winning the whole thing?
Probably not. So there's 2 different ways of looking at this. So one thing is the conference record, Richard. The other thing is where is your RPI right now? And Mark Etheridge, our Southeastern writer and our resident kind of bracketology guy, he wrote a story last week, and it was one team in the modern era of NCAA postseasons has had an RPI in the 80s or 90s and gotten in the postseason. At this stage of the season, Mississippi State right now at 90. So they would have to be the second team in the modern era to actually get in with that bad of an RPI this late. Ole Miss sitting at 48. So Ole Miss is actually within striking distance. It's just Mississippi State has a long way to go right now, but it's the SEC. All of a sudden you win a series over Auburn. Let's say you win a series over Ole Miss. RPI looks a lot different at that point.
Yeah, certainly could change in a hurry. I mean, we've talked. I mean, it's only 2 days into the week, but about just the magnitude of this weekend. Mississippi State's got to win the series at home against Auburn. Ole Miss has got to win the series in Columbia against South Carolina to have any shred of hope for the postseason.
And that's going to be a tough chore because Will Sanders can really pitch. Matthew Becker is a really solid pitcher for South Carolina. South Carolina is really good at home. As weird of a season as they've had series wins over Vandy and Texas at home. So I guess with both of these teams, and maybe it's just giving them the benefit of the doubt. Mississippi State has certainly deserved it, given the fact they're the defending champs. But I guess I'm sitting back here going, "Hey, both of these teams, I feel like they're both going to make a big run." Well, I don't think both of them can make a big run. I think it's going to have to be either or because somebody's got to lose that series in 2 weeks.
Kendall Rogers from D1 Baseball bringing all the good news on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
I wish I could be a little bit more positive, but we'll see. We still have a long way to go, man. We'll see.
Yep. A lot of baseball still to play. Thanks, Kendall. We'll talk to you next week.